You may or may not know how the lectionary is set up that chooses which readings that we have. And so we're on a 3-year cycle for the weekend readings. They're aptly named years A, B, and Q. C is the third year. Yes, A, B, and C. We happen to be in year C. In year C, for the most part, we're going through the Gospel of Luke. And so the way the lectionary is set up is that you have the Gospel, we're making our way through the Gospel, and then the first reading is somehow a reflection on the Gospel, and then the Psalm is a reflection of something to do with the first reading. So all of that is about something about the Gospel. The second reading, however, for the most part of the year, we're moving kind of just through the different readings. So we heard from Colossians last week. We're hearing from Colossians this week. I haven't looked ahead, but my guess is we'll hear from Colossians next week. We're moving through the book of the Colossians. So while, of course, there is a wholeness and a unity to the whole of Scripture, the fact that there might be some sort of theme isn't always the case between the second reading and the Gospel in the first reading. But today there is. And so it's a providential that in the second reading today, we talk about a number of things that St. Paul says we have to put to death, but included in that is greed. And then we hear in the Gospel Jesus talking about greed. Someone says, "Tell my brother to share the inheritance with me." Now, I don't know if you've ever had to go through this when there's been family fighting over money. It's such a painful moment. I think about on both sides of my family, something happened in my extended family where people got upset with each other over the inheritance. Thanks be to God, my parents kept level heads and they didn't really care about any of it. And they're saying, anything that's given is gift and anything we don't get is not ours anyways. But so many of them, it created infighting and problems, and people weren't talking to each other for years. Over what? Over money? How long do we have money? Not all that long. What good is money anyways? It's only good for what it can get us, and stuff, Jesus is saying, stuff isn't what it's all about. Now, in our culture, in our society, do we need money? Yeah, there's some level that we need that. But that's not what our life is about. And so he tells this parable, and he says, we have this rich man, he says, who has this bountiful harvest. And he says to himself, and if this were written today, he would have said to himself, self, but that's not what he says. He says, what shall I do? For I do not have space to store my harvest. What is Jesus saying the man should have done with the excess? Give it away. Yes, you keep what you can store, you keep what is good, but give the rest away. It's all gift anyway. But what does this man say? Not to give it away. No, I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones so that I can store even more. Even more. And we're so good at saying, I need to protect my wealth. I need to protect what I have. I remember a few years ago, a lot of years ago now, a guy came to me to talk to me about spiritual things, and he was saying, my whole life I was focused on making my million. I wanted to make sure I got my million. And, I worked and I worked and I worked to get my million. And I got it. And I thought I'd be happy, secure. But now everything I was doing was about protecting my million. About putting my things up and adding to it, make sure I didn't lose that million and keeping that million. And he says, at one point, finally, I realized my focus was completely in the wrong place. I was thinking about this, a song that I used to listen to a lot by a guy by the name of Bob Rice. He's actually now Dr. Bob Rice, and actually recently Deacon Bob Rice. So he's done a lot of things with his life. But he had this song called My Things Need More Things. story of our lives, right? He talks about in this song how, he and his wife had this nice little place, but they had so much stuff, so they ran out of space, so they went and bought another bigger home. But now in this new home, they couldn't put their car on the street. They had to build a garage. And so they had to build this garage, and now they had this lawn, and they had to get a lawnmower and doing all these things. And he said, my things need more things. For everything I have, there's something else I need. Oh, it's sad to say, but still it's true. And I'm wondering who owns who. My things need more things. My accessories need accessories. Sometimes I don't know what to do, and I'm wondering who owns who. And I'm wondering who owns who. That we look and we say, our things need more things. And Jesus is saying, don't store up for yourselves things in this world if you're not rich in the things that matter to God. If you're not rich in the things that matter to God. St. Paul puts it another way. Put to death, then, the parts of you that are earthly. Jesus seems nicer. Become rich in what matters to God. St. Paul is, put to death. Kill those things in yourself that are earthly. Ouch! But sometimes we need the shock value. Sometimes we need to hear it plain and simple and say, cut it out. Several years ago, I wrote a song. This is not high-level music here. This is just something to be funny. So you won't be hearing Steve playing it at Mass anytime soon. But I wrote this song, which was purposely there just for shock value. And so it was a scriptural song. And I said, as I build up to it, I say to people, this is a verse in the scriptures that I've never heard put to song. How important it is to know how all of scripture that is there. And so I start off by saying, if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out, pluck it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off, cut it off. Yeah, not good music there. True theology, but not good music. But we look, and sometimes we need that shock value in our lives to say, wait a second, this is important. Put to death the parts of you that are earthly, immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and the greed that is idolatry. Do we recognize our greed? A lot of times we don't. I'm sure if I took a survey, without having had this homily, if I took a survey of who thought that they were greedy, I think it would probably come down in maybe the 10 percentile, maybe the 1 percentile. Maybe not even there. Everyone said, oh, I'm not greedy. I'm very generous with my stuff. And yet when we look at what we have compared to what people in other parts of the world have, and not just that what we have, but then, well, I need a little bit more. I need this, I need that. I need another toy. My things need more things. And sometimes these things can become idols in our lives because they take our focus off of Jesus. What are the things in our lives that we put as more important than God? What are we do in our lives where we say, this is something I need, when we really know it's just something I want? Where do we tear down our barns and build up larger ones so that we can have more and more and more and more? And Jesus is saying, you fool, this night your life will be demanded of you. And the things you have, to whom will they go? Thus it will be for all who store up treasure for themselves, but are not rich in what matters to God. So that then says, what matters to God? What matters to God? All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Not the way that they meant that. But what do we need? What matters to God? Love of God, love of neighbor. And so often, that's not the priority in our lives. May we grow in riches in what matters to God and put to death that which is earthly.